Attention, attention. His Eminence, the Imperious Leader, will be with us shortly. His ship has landed at the air dome.
Before the flashy reboots and modern science fiction dramas, there was the original Battlestar Galactica in 1978. It had space battles, shiny robots, and a budget so big it shocked TV studios. But behind all that, the show had some seriously weird stuff going on. From toy disasters to religious themes and even drama with Star Wars, this series is packed with wild facts. So sit back and get ready. Here are 15 strange things you probably didn't know. Number 1. It wasn't meant to be a weekly show. Believe it or not, Battlestar Galactica wasn't supposed to be a weekly TV show at first. Creator Glenn A. Larson originally pitched it as a series of big-budget made-for-TV movies. The first story, Saga of a Star World, was actually a feature-length pilot. In fact, Universal Pictures even released it in theaters in several countries, including Canada and Europe, before it ever hit American TV screens. The plan was to follow up with a few more movie specials throughout the year. But then something unexpected happened: ratings. The pilot was a big hit when it aired in the US, and the network, ABC, wanted more. A lot more. So they rushed Larson to turn his idea into a full-blown weekly series on short notice. The shift from movies to a weekly show brought big challenges. Suddenly they had to produce a new episode every week, which meant tighter deadlines, faster writing, and lower production quality in some areas. The result? A show that looked cinematic but sometimes felt rushed. It was never the plan, but fans still loved it.
Doing what? Praying? No, you're gonna be red and blue squadrons, and I'm gonna be green and yellow. I'll be red and blue. Oh, I get it.
Sir, 2 of our warriors are overdue and unaccounted for.
Number 2, the pilot was interrupted by real-world history. When Battlestar Galactica first aired on TV, millions of viewers tuned in, only to be interrupted by breaking news. The premiere of the show's massive pilot episode, Saga of a Star World, was cut off halfway through by a live news broadcast, the announcement of the Camp David peace accords between Egypt and Israel. Imagine settling in for a thrilling space adventure and suddenly, bam, you're watching President Jimmy Carter talk diplomacy. Many fans were confused and even upset, thinking it was just a random news update. But it was actually a historic moment in real life. Because of that interruption, ABC ended up re-airing the full pilot later, so fans could catch everything they missed. It also added to the show's reputation. People remembered that first episode, not just for the science fiction story, but for being part of history. And here's another twist. In some countries, that same pilot wasn't shown on TV at all. It was released as a theatrical movie. So depending on where you lived, Battlestar Galactica was either weekend entertainment or a space epic on the big screen.
This time, the Galactica hasn't a chance.
Number 3, Star Wars almost took them to court. Not long after Battlestar Galactica hit the air, George Lucas and the Star Wars team got angry. Really angry. They believed the show copied some of their ideas and even used similar special effects technology, and they weren't entirely wrong. Many of the people who worked on Star Wars, including some visual effects artists, also worked on Battlestar Galactica. The effects in both looked similar because they used the same motion control camera systems. Those space battles with laser blasts and starships zooming by, pretty close in style. Lucasfilm filed a lawsuit against Universal Studios, claiming Battlestar Galactica had stolen over 30 ideas from Star Wars, including things like the robot design, the Cylons, the opening crawl, and even the concept of an evil empire. The legal battle dragged on, but nothing huge came of it. Eventually, the case was dropped. Still, the tension between the two franchises stuck around for years. And today, many fans see Galactica as part of that late 70s space craze that Star Wars kicked off, even if it almost caused a courtroom showdown. Number 4. A Battlestar Galactica toy killed a child. One of the darkest and weirdest facts about Battlestar Galactica has nothing to do with the show itself. It's about the toys. In 1978, Mattel released a line of action figures and spaceships based on the series. One of the most popular was the Colonial Viper toy, which could fire small plastic missiles. Sadly, one of those missiles became deadly. A child accidentally swallowed one of the spring-loaded projectiles, and it led to his death. Another child was seriously injured in a separate case. The news shocked parents and toy companies everywhere. As a result, Mattel had to recall the toys and redesign them. The updated versions no longer had the firing missile feature. This incident didn't just affect Battlestar Galactica toys. It changed the entire toy industry. New safety standards were put in place to make sure projectile-firing toys couldn't cause harm again. So, while kids were busy battling Cylons in their living rooms, a real-life tragedy behind the scenes made toy safety a much bigger priority. Number 5. The show used its own weird time system. Battlestar Galactica didn't just create new worlds. It made up its own way of telling time. Instead of using normal Earth terms like year, hour, or minute, the show used completely made-up words like yaran, centon, and micron. A yaran was their version of a year. A centon was kind of like a minute. And a micron? That was even shorter, more like a second. Characters would casually say things like, "We have 5 centons to get out of here." And if you were new to the show, it was super confusing at first. This wasn't just for fun, it was a deliberate choice to make the world of Galactica feel alien and far from Earth. It gave the series a deeper science fiction feel, even if viewers had to guess what the characters were talking about half the time. Oddly enough, the rebooted Battlestar Galactica decades later ditched this idea completely. But in the original, these time terms were everywhere. It's one of those small but strange details that made the 1978 version stand out from other science fiction shows.
Commander, all the missiles are now in the ionosphere. Some of them are completing arcs and starting back towards the planet's surface. They'll all re-enter the atmosphere in 15 microns.
Ready?
Number 6. The show was packed with Mormon beliefs. You might not notice it at first, but Battlestar Galactica is full of hidden religious ideas, and many of them come straight from Mormon beliefs. That's because the show's creator, Glenn A. Larson, was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS, also known as the Mormon Church. For example, the story talks about a lost 13th tribe of humans that left the planet Kobol to find Earth. In Mormon belief, there's an idea of a lost tribe and a planet called Kolob, which is close to God. Sounds familiar, right? There's also a Council of the 12, which mirrors the LDS Church's leadership structure. Even the way the Galactica crew talks about religion, gods, and prophecy echoes Mormon teachings. At the time, most viewers didn't know where these ideas came from, they just saw it as deep world building. But for those familiar with LDS beliefs, the connections are pretty clear. It's one of the most unique things about the show. A space adventure mixed with personal spiritual ideas, all hidden behind shiny helmets and laser blasts. Number 7. One guy played 2 totally different characters. Here's something you might have missed. The same actor played 2 big roles on Battlestar Galactica. Patrick Macnee, a well-known British actor, pulled double duty on the show. He played the voice of the evil Imperious leader and appeared on screen as the creepy Count Iblis. Yep, same guy. You probably remember Count Iblis. He had glowing red eyes, a spooky voice, and gave off major space devil energy. He shows up acting all mysterious and starts messing with the crew's heads. Totally weird vibes. But what you might not know is that Macnee was also behind the voice of the Cylon's top leader, the Imperious leader. You never really see his face, just that glowing Cylon throne room. But that deep, echoey voice, all Patrick Macnee. Some fans even think the show did this on purpose, like there's some secret connection between Iblis and the Cylons. Whether that's true or not, it's definitely one of those, "Wait, what?" facts that makes the show even more interesting on rewatch.
Let her go. I command it.
You command no one who does not willingly give you dominion.
Number 8. Sometimes the actors were reading off cue cards. Making a weekly science fiction show in the late 70s wasn't easy, especially one as big as Battlestar Galactica. The switch from a few TV movies to a full weekly series happened so fast, the writers could barely keep up. And sometimes the scripts weren't even finished when filming started. So what did the actors do? They read their lines off cue cards. No joke. In some episodes, lines were being written minutes before filming a scene. Actors had to stick cue cards all over the set, behind control panels, on walls, even hidden in props, just to get through a take. You might not notice it while watching, but once you know, you'll start to catch a few awkward pauses and stiff line deliveries. It wasn't the actors' fault. They were doing their best with what they had. The pressure to pump out new episodes every week was huge, especially for a show with lots of effects, costumes, and strange new words. But even with all the chaos behind the scenes, they still managed to build a science fiction universe fans would love for decades.
Let's get out of here. Warn the fleet. So far, we don't know if there's anything to warn them about. Now hold your positions and your fire until we get a fix on them.
Number 9. Baltar was supposed to die in the first episode. If you only watch the TV version of Battlestar Galactica, you'd know Baltar is the main traitor who keeps causing trouble for the fleet. But here's a weird twist. In the original version of the story, he was supposed to die in the first episode. In the theatrical release of the pilot Saga of a Star World, the Cylons actually execute Baltar. They use him to betray the humans, then slice his head off for being useless. Brutal, right? That was going to be the end of his story. But when ABC turned the pilot into a weekly show, they decided to keep Baltar alive. Why? Because they needed a recurring bad guy. He added drama, tension, and gave the heroes someone to fight against besides faceless robots. So they changed the scene. Instead of killing him, the Cylons lock him up and let him live. And just like that, Baltar became one of the key villains of the series. It's a big change, and one that shaped the entire show. Without it, Battlestar Galactica would have had a very different vibe.
I think I can assure you, with some sense of pride, you will inherit the most capable Centurions in all the Empire.
Number 10. The Cylons were originally aliens? Most fans know the Cylons as evil robots with shiny armor and red scanning eyes, but originally they weren't robots at all. They were living aliens in armor suits. Yep, the early version of the Battlestar Galactica story had the Cylons as an actual alien race that wore metallic suits for battle. In fact, in the movie version of the pilot, there's even a scene that hints at this. You can spot a weird green reptile-looking face under one of the Cylon helmets for a split second. But for the TV version, the creators decided to change that. Why? Because the network and censors were worried that showing living aliens getting shot and killed every week would be too violent for kids. So they came up with a fix: make the Cylons fully robotic. It was a quick change that totally redefined the show. Instead of fighting a race of alien warriors, the humans were now up against cold, soulless machines. That tiny shift made the show feel darker, and it stuck around in every version of Battlestar Galactica after. Number 11. The Galactica had actual military land vehicles. You'd expect a giant space battleship like the Galactica to be full of high-tech gear, laser cannons, fighter ships, maybe a tractor beam or two. But what you might not expect is tanks. Yep, the Galactica crew actually used real-world military-style land vehicles. During some of the surface missions in the show, especially on snowy or rocky planets, the crew rolled out in things like the Landrum and Snowrum. These weren't futuristic hovercraft or flying transports. They were just heavily modified military snowcats and armored vehicles made to look science fiction with a little extra paneling and paint. The reason? Budget. It was way cheaper to take existing vehicles, dress them up with fake tech parts, and roll them in front of the camera than to build brand new ones from scratch. Still, it worked. The Landrum even became kind of iconic among die-hard fans. It's one of those quirky details that makes the original Battlestar Galactica feel like a weird mix of space adventure and 70s action flick. Not many shows had snow tanks driving around other planets, but this one did. Number 12. Some Battlestars were only ever mentioned. In the world of Battlestar Galactica, the Galactica wasn't the only massive warship flying around. It was one of a whole fleet of Battlestars, each with its own name and mission. But here's the weird part. A lot of them were mentioned, and never actually shown. Names like Columbia, Pacific, Rykon, and Triton came up in dialogue, but we never got to see these ships on screen. No models, no designs, just quick mentions. Some were said to be destroyed during the Cylon sneak attack, and others were hinted at in background lore. Even stranger, there were internal production documents that listed Battlestars we never heard about at all, including one named Prometheus, not to be confused with the ship from later Galactica spin-offs. These names were probably created to give the universe more depth, but the budget and time didn't allow for more models or scenes. So while the Galactica got all the screen time, there was a whole unseen fleet behind it. For fans who love lore, this mystery became a fun rabbit hole, and later books and comics tried to fill in the gaps. Number 13. There was a Battlestar Galactica handheld game. Back in the late 70s, if you were a kid who loved Battlestar Galactica, there was a pretty cool way to bring the action home, through a handheld LED game. Yep, long before smartphones or high-end consoles, Mattel released a pocket-sized Battlestar Galactica electronic game in 1978. The screen was just a tiny black box with red blinking lights, but it was high-tech for the time. You played as a Viper pilot, trying to shoot down incoming Cylon raiders. The game used little red dots to represent ships and a shrill beep every time you fired. It was simple, repetitive, and strangely addictive. These kinds of LED games were super popular back then, and this one flew off toy shelves, especially right after the show premiered. It was one of the first pieces of official Battlestar Galactica merch, and helped cement the show's place in pop culture, especially for younger fans. Nowadays, if you can find one still working, it's considered a collector's item. It might not have 4K graphics, but for 70s science fiction fans, it was pure space battle fun in your pocket. Number 14. The Cylons had a whole chain of command. When people think of Cylons, they usually picture the classic chrome robots with the red scanner eyes. But the Cylon army in Battlestar Galactica wasn't just mindless metal soldiers. There was actually a full hierarchy, kind of like a military chain of command. At the bottom you had the regular Cylon Centurions, the foot soldiers with blasters and robotic voices. Then there were command Centurions, who had gold armor and gave orders to the lower ranks. Above them, you had the IL series Cylons, like Lucifer, who looked totally different, tall with glowing heads and weird, translucent brains. And at the top, the Imperious leader, a mysterious figure with a booming voice and ultimate authority. He was more like a political leader, while the IL series handled strategy and the Centurions carried it all out. This level of detail made the Cylons feel like a real empire, not just robot bad guys. You don't really see that kind of layered villain structure in most shows from the 70s. It added a cool and creepy vibe to the enemies, and made them a lot more interesting than your average TV baddies.
Uh-oh. What, pray tell, was that?
There go the bunkers.
Number 15. The show launched a whole franchise. It's easy to forget now, but Battlestar Galactica, 1978, only ran for one season. That's it, just 24 episodes. But somehow, it sparked a whole franchise that's still going strong decades later. After the original series ended, fans were disappointed but not done. Universal quickly tried to keep the momentum going with Galactica 1980, a strange spin-off that brought the fleet to Earth. It wasn't well received, but it kept the brand alive. Over the years, Galactica grew beyond TV. It had comic books, novels, board games, model kits, and even theme park attractions. Then in the early 2000s, it exploded back into the spotlight with the gritty and award-winning reboot on Sci-Fi. That version took the original ideas and gave them a dark, modern twist that brought in a whole new generation of fans. So while the 1978 show may have been short-lived, it started something way bigger. Not many canceled science fiction shows can say that. It's proof that even a single season, if weird enough, can leave a lasting mark on pop culture. So there you have it, 15 weird, wild, and surprising facts about the original Battlestar Galactica. From deadly toys to secret religious themes and space tanks, this one-season wonder packed in way more strangeness than most shows do in a decade. If you enjoyed this trip down retro science fiction memory lane, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and drop a comment with your favorite Galactica moment or fact we missed. Until next time, may the Lords of Kobol watch over you.